motivation, yeah. Get through the day. Just tune in, cause we'll make a way. Positivity. So if you need environment to make a change, yeah, start with today. And tune into Pancake Monday. Pancake Monday. With Pastor OJS. OJS. Oh yes. Oh yes. Pancake Monday. Pancake Monday. With Pastor OJS. OJS. Oh yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, welcome to another edition of Mancave Monday. And I am so excited to be back with you. We were off the air last week, just trying to catch up on some much needed rest, but we are certainly back this week. And as I see you all coming in, I really appreciate the support. And as always, we want you to share this page with somebody. I promise you they will be blessed. They will be empowered by it. But also take a moment and connect with our YouTube page as well. And that link is right there at the top of the chat, pinned there for you to click there. So thank you so much for continuing to support. But today, I am so excited to have as my guest a friend and a brother, and now my classmate in this season for the next 2.5 years. His name is Pastor Dominique Johnson from the great city of Macon, Georgia. I told y'all there's two kinds of people in the world. There's people from Georgia, and then there's everybody else. And this brother is from the great city of Macon, Georgia. Welcome, sir. How you doing today?
I'm good, bro. What's going on with you?
You got it. Yes, sir. I'm excited to have you. And this has been an exciting season these past couple of months, starting last semester at Virginia Union with you and so many others in our cohort. And so for us to be able to connect in this space, I'm really appreciative to you for agreeing to come on.
Hey, man, I thank you again for asking me to come. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. So now we met probably about 8 years ago, I want to say. Can you remember exactly how that went down?
Man, first of all, I was at a convention here in Macon. I think a Baptist convention. I tell people, I'm Baptist Coastal. So I was there. I was there visiting a friend. Actually, he was like, "Hey, man, come through." I'm like, "Hey, I ain't registered with it." He said, "No, some of the courses you can come through." Like, boom. And so I forget who was even here that year, but we sat down with my friend, who's Pastor Paul Little now. He pastor be at Mount Zion. But his pastor at the time, oh man, I went back on his pastor, but he pastors the first African church in Savannah, which was just
Tillman.
shown on Tillman. I don't know.
Thurman Tillman. Yeah.
Please forgive me, Pastor Tim. I know you. I'm sorry I just went blank. But we said, man, you were explaining just your philosophy, theology on some stuff. They were just picking your brain, and we sat there and really just, kicked it and tripped out for a minute. So, that's when we met.
Yeah. And here we are now, about 8 years later, in school together. And it's amazing how God orchestrates relationships.
When I saw you, right, I said, that's the guy. Let me sit down and kick it. You'd be like, okay, cool. But that was cool, though, to even see, small world, as they always say.
Yeah, and to tell you how small the world really is, to talk about Macon, Georgia, you can't talk about Macon, Georgia without talking about Pastor, the late, great Dr. Ronald Terry. Dr. Terry and my late pastor, Dr. C.M. Alexander, were great friends over the years. And so Dr. Terry signed on my ordination. Like, he was a part of my ordination group. And when I tell you, Terry was the one that broke me in that group. Now, as you can imagine, it's 16 of the meanest preachers you ever met in your life on this panel. And it's 7 of us in the group. So they took us, of course, one by one. And we went from 6:30 in the evening till 6:30 in the morning with these preachers. They would not let up, bro. I'm talking just question after question. They sent me out like 2 in the morning and then told me to come back because I was snotting and crying and carrying on. Like, Terry was the one that broke me at the end of the day. When I tell you I love that man to this day because of that experience. And so You know, he's in heaven now, my pastor's in heaven now, but these are experiences I will never forget.
Hey, bro, I need to reevaluate my process.
Listen, but we can talk about that because the question arises, is this generation of preachers even wired for that kind of process? You know, are they built the same as we were coming through? I ain't throwing shade, but this is a legit question because we're talking about the authentication of the minister and making sure in the spirit of Paul and Timothy that a preacher is ready before you send them out. I don't know that cats is submitting to that kind of process now.
Nah, it's interesting, man. You know, even with my the few ministers that I've had in our 10-year history, the first one I did them a year and a half, but they were already preaching, had preached and stuff. Yeah. So I want to just introduce them to something. I didn't want their process to be just a glorified Bible study. And so now I have a group that I'm taking through three young mentees or spiritual sons and daughters. But so I'm doing them 2 straight years. It's going to eventually be 3, where it's like the disciples walk with Jesus. Now, I'm not saying they might not touch the mic before the end or do some stuff, but I'm definitely giving it to them. I'm like, look, I want y'all to read these books. I want y'all to build your library. Number one, because not only should you need to be inspirational, you need to be intellectual. So that's what I focus on, intellectual and inspirational. But the first year, Jermaine was pastor.
You in the man cave, bro.
Yeah, that's right. So the first year, man, I'm dealing with them on spiritual formation. Where I dealt with them on spiritual, like you got this, who you are. The technical stuff, the gift, you know, we're gonna sharpen that. Well, who are you? But you're right, I don't know. And you know, sometimes they be like, you sure you know how to read. I'm like, man, God don't sit down somewhere. but they embracing it, you know what I'm saying? But you're right. That could be a topic like, what does that even look like? Number one, in this virtual session. Number 2, really just grounding people. Like you said, I think you agree, I agree. You know, of course, you know, people ask me the question. I said, well, look at him. I'm not saying you got to go through what I went through, but you need to at least go make a sweater or something together. You know what I'm saying? Well, and I'm using that to say that but that 6:30 to 6 a.m. That's a memory that you can't hold. I mean, that you not that you can't hold, that you won't forget.
Right. And it helped with my spiritual formation. Now, keep in mind, I was 24 years old at the time, so I was the baby in the group. They took their time on me, but what I can do now, 16, 17 years later, is I can pull from that and say, hey, I was trained by the best. I'm not just out here renegade young preacher, didn't listen to nobody, wanted to start and do my own thing. But those old guys can vouch for me. Those signatures mean something out here in the field, in the space. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And that's what I'm not sure if this generation, and I could be wrong, y'all feel free to prove me wrong, but I don't know if this generation is built that way because of the culture. Like these days, it don't take nothing to put your face on the flyer and just announce where you're going to be on Sunday. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you're not sitting up under anybody. You haven't submitted to anybody. And everybody want to take the elevator when we took the stairs. You see what I'm saying?
I'm talking about, you know, I grew up, like, as I just said, I'm Dr. Collins. I grew up in the old school, well, in a pretty much progressive kind of Baptist church. But I got discipled in an old school Holy Pentecostal church. And so, you know, everything was a sin. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Going to the movie theaters a sin.
Yeah. They had came out of that by the time I joined with them. But my point is, you're right, man. I think, you know, like you said, I'm glad we're in the man cave, because like you said, this conversation go anywhere. That is a topic to be discussed. I think for some, talking to a lot of younger ministers or people though, and here's the flip side, just to give a fair treatise, right? Like we hear in our DVN program, let's hear all the voices. The flip side is some I don't think us, I don't think you and I, but some of our predecessors, I think some of the younger ministers may have felt like they were smothered or they weren't ever released. So I think it's a both and. Like we got to make sure we see the gift in somebody We don't spoil it. We don't become dictatorial, but we at least say, hey, this is what you need and this is what you're going to go through. So I can see the other side, but for me, I'm not kind of like you, man. I honor authority, respect. I just do that. I'm proof of that way works. Let me say it like that.
Okay.
That way works. Yeah.
Well, you're helping me right now, believe it or not, because what I wrestle with, like I said, with the whole generational thing, I don't want to be the old get off my lawn, y'all young folk don't know nothing generation. That's not me. I've been in ministry for 21 years and I was always the baby everywhere I went. You know what I mean? I was 26 when I started pastoring. All my members were older than me. So I always had to prove that I knew what I was doing or that I knew what I was talking about. But to this generation that's coming even behind us, that's in their 20s and early 30s, what I see is more influence from YouTube, more influence from some of the negative things that they told us to stay away from in terms of star chasing, cloud chasing, and that type of thing. This is the YouTube generation and all these other outlets that are out there. When I was coming through, the only preachers I ever heard was those that my daddy brought to the church for revival, or that my pastor brought to church for revival. I knew Jasper Williams because he preached our revival every year. I knew Jerry Black because he preached our revival every year at Antioch. But, beyond that, it was whoever my dad introduced and whoever my pastor introduced. That panel that you're talking about when we met in Macon, Dr. Bill Curtis was the other panelist up there from Pittsburgh, Mount Ararat.
Yeah.
I didn't know who Bill Curtis was when I met him. Because again, I wasn't tied into that whole word network, mega church preacher, thing. I knew whoever my pastors exposed me to. But nowadays you can Google any of those guys. You can hear them all the time, and that influence that's there. Who can hoop the best? Whose holler is sweeter than the next? Like all that stuff is elementary. And to your point, it says nothing about one's academic prowess and scholarship.
Yeah. I mean, I think, man, when you look at it, particularly in the age that we're pastoring in, I'm gonna stay on top because I got so many thoughts. It's a good.
We can flow. We can flow.
When you talk about that, it's like think about this, particularly in our atmosphere now. People can click on us, our own numbers, can click on us, and we'll bring up some of our contemporaries. So they can click on us, and if we ain't quote unquote got a subject that they like, they quickly can go to Darius Daniels. They quickly it's like, and I'm not, here's what I tell people, I'm not mad about necessarily listening to other preachers or pastors because I'm cool, but listen to home first at least. Get what's the word for your house or your
that's right.
God has placed you at.
That's right. That's right.
It'll be almost asinine for me to say, y'all don't listen to nobody else. Man, they gonna do it anyway. So it's like, this is where I'm planted. This is where I'm getting the best thing,
Yeah, but it's dangerous though. And I'm gonna argue for the side that you're talking about right now. Because
true.
If you eating at too many people's table, if you getting different doctrines, that are totally opposite of one another, that's dangerous. Because as pastor, your members have been assigned to you by God. You're supposed to lead them and feed them. But if they are able to click off of here and go straight to something else that is totally opposite of what you have been teaching, because we do have doctrinal positions on things. We do have a certain stance about whatever, the issue of the day may be. But if they going to hear this and that, I mean, and you are their pastor, you are assigned to them. I can't answer for what the pastor down the block or across town has to say, but when they are digesting so many different meals, it's bound to give you what I call ecclesiastical indigestion.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely right. So I mean, there's no pushback on me for that. I just know they're going to do it. So what I do is tell them, look, man, I do tell them, y'all need to be careful with all of that. Because as you and I have said in a couple of classes, there's been some stuff you're like, oh, okay. that ain't her. I said, oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So definitely that. I do
Yeah.
tell them, hey, that's not, you got to be careful.
Be careful.
Even then you get all confused and everything. We know you've been turned into a Hebrew Israelite service or something, not even knowing.
Exactly. And our members are digesting all of that.
Yeah.
And so we're in the man cave.
Yeah.
I'm talking to Pastor Dominique Johnson, Macon, Georgia. Let's talk a little bit about you for the benefit of those that do not know you. Talk a little bit about your journey. You were born and raised in Macon, and here you are now pastoring and leading in the city you were born in. Talk about you.
Yeah, man. Born and raised in Macon. We say East Macon, where I'm from.
East Macon. Right? Okay.
East Macon has got its own issue. We got our own. We us.
Okay.
We went on to Payne College, man, and played basketball down there at Payne. Came back, got an MBA in international business and MA in practical theology. We started the nonprofit first. Actually, a year before we started just serving in our community with the urban CEO. So it's 10 years old today. I mean, not today, but this year. Yeah. Then the church came next. Yeah, Kingdom Life is the church. We started in my living room, as a matter of fact. And I was working at Mercer at the time. So when people started kind of packing out the living room, I was working at Mercer. I was able to get a spot at Mercer. And then we transitioned from Mercer to the area of town I grew up on, which is in East Macon, like I said. Mm-hmm. So of course the church is my church is Kingdom Life. My main goal, man, is to be a place of truth, life, and community. Our mission is to make disciples who are thoroughly equipped and fruitful in every good work. That's what people, in short, we want to develop disciples that make a difference. And of course, I have a vision statement too. Yeah, I have a vision statement too that just says, we want to be a life-giving community of mature believers who are ambassadors of Christ that transform culture and community. So that's it, man. I'm just a dude who want to take all our tools. Yeah, all our tools and help them with the kingdom.
I wanna pull from that a little bit more. You chose to start a ministry, and like you said, it started in your living room, which I always commend the brothers and sisters that start ministries. It's those small beginnings, right? And you are literally the janitor, the usher, the musician, the worship leader, and the preacher, right? And I always admired that journey. Did you find being at home in Macon, East Macon to be specific, did you find the same thing that Jesus ran into, that whole prophet is without honor in his own country? Or did you get more traction or support because you were home?
I think it's you'll hear me say this a lot probably during this conversation, man, and probably in our conversation with school. I think it's a both and. I had some cats who, at the end of the day, I probably had did some dirt with, smoke blunts with, and all that, who would probably say, man, that's neat, man. I just can't see him as my pastor. But then you have other people, like I pastored probably, I should have counted, at least 4 or 5 of my actual classmates that I graduated high school with.
That's what's
One
up.
of them is actually a minister under me. And so you have the both,
Yeah.
And so you do have that, but so I just leave it at that. You do have both things.
Yeah, I think it's a powerful testimony, though. And for those that don't know, Dominique Johnson is a different dude. Like he is not, that with him there is no pretense, ain't no, there's no air, about him, which is why I think we connect on such a real level and feel like I know you all my life. Yeah, and all of that, you turn it on and off. I just appreciate the authenticity. And who would you say that your ministry reaches? Like, Jesus, Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he's anointed me for this group of folk, the poor, the disenfranchised. Who does your ministry target?
Man, we're definitely an urban ministry. Definitely an urban ministry. But in our group, you may find, so let me best explain it by explaining who in my congregation. You may see one of somebody who went to high school with me, about 3 years younger than me, right? But so she'll tell you, Pastor, I was the dope queen, right? Or the trap queen. She got both her canines gold. she's coming out of that, right? But then I got a couple. Who the husband has a engineering degree from Mercer University, and the wife got a JD from Duke. So I think and I've been trying to get that as a maybe more from a psychographic than anything. So I think it's people who really want intellectual quote unquote stimulation, but want it on a practical level where it's relevant for everyday life. And I know that probably should be everybody's aim, but I'm down certain industries I don't think it is.
No.
So it's like I want you to challenge me. I want to learn. I want to grow and be challenged, but I also want it to where we doing something in the community that I'm able to apply. If that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense, bro. And the pride that you speak with about your members and about, the young lady in particular, and her, like you say, spiritual formation, her growth, her journey.
Yeah.
Man, I think that's authentic ministry. One of my deacons, two of my deacons is former dope boys. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they became deacons probably about 2-3 years ago. And their testimony is known throughout the community. It ain't nothing we hide from. It ain't nothing we try to keep on the low. Like they're able to draw certain people to Christ that I can't draw. They give me street cred, to be honest with you. I'm a prep school thug. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not, I wasn't all the way in that life because my daddy wasn't having it. So for those guys and so many others in our congregation who have that background, but then you also have, like you said, the engineers, the PhDs, the whomever, that is what the body of Christ looks like. And nobody has more Jesus than the next person.
Yeah, man, it's interesting because even like one of my boys did 6 years fed, and he came, and he said, man, I'm going to tell you what I got on my phone, because you my homeboy first. He like, I got a homie preacher. I know that shit. I said, that's fine. Man, that's cool. I said, that's what I told him. He said, you ain't mad. I said, no. I said, first of all, I can tell when people are being disrespectful when they want to say, oh, it's just neat. Or neat.
Right.
Like, it's fine. So, man, I think that's who it kind of is.
Yeah.
But, Jermaine, it also kind of lends to how I was brought up. Like me, I had probably like you, I dibbled and dabbled. I wasn't just strict. I tell people thugalicious. But I hung around, quote unquote, everyday people because of my dad. My dad was a playground legend in Macon. So people knew me. I played basketball. So the hood knew me through that. And people knew, okay, don't push me too far. He will throw hands. But at the same time, while my dad was dealing with his addiction and everything, he had a job that we were able to be exposed and go on trips. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was like a both thing again.
So like, you went from throwing hands to laying hands.
Laying hands.
Oh, good God of mercy. I almost spoke in tongues. Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? So we had the resources to be exposed to stuff, but every day when I'm back, I'm at the playground. I'm around what I call my Uncle Walt them and all them. They may be around the barrel.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Drinking the beer. So it's like I'm in both worlds, which that's kind of what I do now. I talk to dope boys and presidents of university. That's where I think the lack of pretense come from.
Yeah, and it's refreshing, honestly, because when you get around preachers, and you know this, man, you get around preachers, and it becomes, let me see, certain things I can't say, even though we're in the man cave. It becomes a who's got the biggest, who's got the best, it becomes competition, and it shouldn't be that, but. There's pretense in every profession. But do you think that your dad's struggle, as you mentioned with addiction, do you think that is what makes you more compassionate towards everyday kind of people because you do know struggle so well? Yeah, man, I think that. And, man, my dad, we probably all had this growing men. Them teenage years, you come in, you try to figure out. You don't understand him. But I think, man, just being around, like I say, everyday people. Like, even though my dad he had a decent job, right? Him and my mom both were at this place called Brown and Wilson, which high school degrees, diploma, that's all they had. Mm-hmm. It gave them some resources to expose my sisters and I. Mm-hmm. I know I'm going to repeat myself, but it never changed my dad to who he was. Like, he had to move out to the area
so it wouldn't be so he couldn't just slip back into drug abuse.
Right.
But it's still, and it was always drilled, do not forget who you are or where you came from.
Yeah.
Let me tell you a quick story to show you how my dad is. And everybody loves my dad. They be like, man, your dad's so cool. He just, one of them 70 cats. What's up, man?
Oh, man.
What's up, cat?
I love the 70s. I wish I'd have been around for the 70s.
Hey, I think everybody was on dope in the 70s.
Shaft.
Probably except my mama. My mom might be the only one, right? But everybody tried some. But here's a story real quick. And this will let you know how my dad was. I think how it rubbed off on me and I didn't realize. They had a lady here, and we called her the junk monster. She just looked bad. She walked the street, but everybody knew her. And so I remember this a good little while ago. I think I was passing at the time. I'm not sure. I said, yeah, man, I saw junk monster down by J&L. That's a store here. And he said, who? I said, junk monster. He said, you talking about Brenda? I said, yeah, man, Brenda. He said, you call her Brenda. You call her Brenda. You call her a name. We all go through something. I was like, whoa. And so now that's what I do. Unless it's a nickname people don't mind.
Right. But the dignity and the respect.
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
And he affirmed because number one, he realized probably even from him, I almost said the word I was saying. But I could have been there.
Right.
Like it's only by grace that I didn't go. I just didn't leave y'all and walk the street like her, right? But he said, you call her by name.
Yeah.
He said, because when I see her, I give her a little something every time. He said, matter of fact, when you see her, ask her if she hungry or something. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, yes, sir.
That is such a pastoral vibe that I get from that, from your dad. Like, it's almost like he had the shepherd's heart for people like that. He never, he didn't have to preach. He didn't have to have a platform, but just the way he trained you as a son and corrected you as a son, like, no, that woman deserves dignity. That woman deserves respect. Y'all call her junk monster, but she has a name.
Yeah, bro, I was like, woo. And he'll do that with like one of his homeboys. One of his homeboys, I won't call his name.
Mm-hmm.
He'll come back, he'll find me. My dad will get him and say, man, come do some yard work with me.
Mm-hmm.
I will give you a couple $. Now, he treat him like his son sometimes.
Yeah.
But you know how two friends, they get but he'll find him and be like, hey, I need some yard work, come help me. And then he don't just have New York, he feeds and he'll take care, he take him back where he at. He say, man, be safe out here.
Be safe.
Yeah.
Wow. Tell me a little bit about your project focus. We are at Proctor School of Theology together. We're in our second semester of a 3-year journey now. What is your project focus? What's passionate? What is the work that your soul must have?
We've heard that
over and over and over again.
Yeah.
What is your project focus?
Well, my focus is going to be the church as a catalyst for local and global community transformation.
Mm-hmm.
Through leadership development. I think as we continue to do this,
right.
So basically it's about the church going in and finding these, I'm going to use the word indigenous leaders in the community, developing them to help with the restoration of the community. So it ain't like we just come in, like we developing our people in our church, but how does the church go in and see, I'm going to use the name Willie James and see the leadership capability in Willie James? He just needs to help develop and see that he's also a part of rebuilding his own community. So that's the focus of it. As you know, in doing this work, we steadily get clarity and narrow it down. But the gist of it is that.
I will confess, man, just in the last week, my project focus has changed twice. And, we talked offline about it, right? I was just so frustrated last week. But once I prayed on it more and started to reflect more, the frustration really helped me fine tune what I need to be focused on in this work. So I'm even grateful for the frustration. I keep telling folk, if you didn't think about quitting school at least once or twice, you ain't really in school. Because, it'll push you.
And then raising a family and all that at the same time.
Man, It'll push you.
Yeah.
But what it sounds like you're saying, and I'll give you a short anecdote. I was in Atlanta, like I said, at the Antioch Church, serving there. Had already graduated from Morris Brown, undergrad, and then I was recruited to Tallahassee. That's how I got here. I was recruited by Reverend Dr. R.B. Holmes, who at the time was the president of the Congress of Christian Education for National Baptist, and he recruited me to be his youth and collegiate pastor. That's how me and my family got to Tallahassee. However,
Okay.
when you think about, I'm gonna say the average church, that's my church, your church, and millions of others, we don't have no budget to be recruiting folk from across the map. We ain't got no budget line item to recruit a director of ministries and a director of budget and finance
Yeah.
and a director of worship and all this stuff with benefits and retirement and all of that. So your project focus sounds like developing homegrown, as you said, indigenous leaders right there within your community and within your church, because that's really our testimony. We don't have it like that to be recruiting from all over the country. So any leaders we have, just about all of them are homegrown.
I'm talking about it right there, bro. I mean, and what it does too, though, Jermaine, what it does, it shows the fact that we are reaching out, right? I'm reaching you back again to that. If you want to go to that restoration of dignity, hey man, that's something in you, whether or not you go to my church or not. Let's talk about the community as a whole. And we talked about this a little bit as we wrestled with, as I wrestled with changing my scripture. I was looking at it. I was like, okay, this does fit, because mine's gonna be Nehemiah 2. And so when you look at it, he says the Jews, the noble, the princes, all those people in that community for the work they should do. And so for me, man, building something from the ground up, doing that, like I'm not really trying to ask you for anything. Now when I say that, for the people who's listening, I'm not prideful. I want the church. I want the church to say, we got it. Like, and so one verse I'm telling I told my intercessors, the people to pray about, is Isaiah 60, 1-3. And in that, I won't exegete the whole thing. But at the end, that third verse is saying, the king should come towards your life. Long enough for us going to beg in the government for stuff.
Reverend.
You know what I'm saying? They should be coming to us, because we got the number one, the Holy Ghost. We function ourselves. I'm not saying we won't ever have to partner, so to speak. But we each stand on. Hey,
say
you
it.
know
Say
I'm
it.
not trying
Yeah.
to ask the government for nothing. But if I need to, I will partner. But at the same time, they should be coming to our life. So I tell people, I want to be at the table, but I'm going to build my own. We're going to build our own too.
That's it. That's it.
I'm not just coming to eat off you. You're going to come eat with me.
That's it. I totally agree. And again, y'all, this is Mancave Monday. Continue to comment, continue to share. Make sure you subscribe and like that YouTube page as well. The link is in the chat. Talking with Pastor Dominique Johnson from Macon, Georgia. Bro, what you're talking about is so critical to, I believe, our integrity as pastors. Because if you are on the king's payroll, if you are, somehow in bed with local government and whatever, you're going to give up something in your position as prophet. I believe that.
Yeah.
Nehemiah was able to maintain his prophetic integrity by staying, and I know Nehemiah wasn't a prophet, but you understand the analogy.
Yeah, I totally.
He was able to maintain his prophetic integrity by not totally selling out, his people.
Exactly.
And there's that balance that's there. And you really own to something with that.
Yeah. I mean, after that, he went to the king that one time. But the king asked him, what's wrong with you? But so he put it on his heart. And so he said, hey, look, this is what's going on. King said, okay, here it is. I'm going to give you authority, because I'm going to send these letters with you. I'm going to give you some resources. That's it. After that, with his foot touched the ground, I'm going to get all my people to rebuild this themselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm at, man. I'm not that I got to be the fighter for the church, but I want the church to restore. I'm careful about saying restore his glory like he's done lost it. But I want in making, whether it's mine or not, for people to say, oh, they go to resources. But let me tell you this real quick. because of the work we do with my nonprofit church, this lady, this woman, she inboxed me. I don't have message on my phone. She inboxed me. So when I got to, she said, "Hey, give me a call." Blah blah blah. I said, "Okay." She said inbox me back. She forgot I had her number. Long story short, I said, "Yeah." She said, "Hey, my employer wants to give you some money, a check. She look for a check coming." So I know the employer she's talking about. So, man, I'm thinking, okay, I'm grateful now. Hear me? I'm thinking, 3-4K. Now that's cool. So I think we're gonna get it. I get this. So I talked to her. She said, I said, "Yeah." And I'm trying to be modest. I'm trying not to ask what how much bread it is. But I just asked, I said, "Hey, how much, if I don't mind, how much is he gonna send?" She said, "Oh, 25. So I'm like, 25?
25.
25. I said, 25K?
Wow.
She said, "Yeah." I said, "You sure?" She said, "I wrote the check." Here again, I will say this. This is an organization led by an older white gentleman who just sees my post on Facebook. See, we can talk about that too, about being a steward and watching your platform, and knows the work we do. Bro, we didn't submit for the grant.
Mm.
He just said it. So that's what I'm saying. Like, going back to what you were saying about being authentic, about being just who you are, serving your demographic. That's it, man. Send it.
The Lord sent the resources your way. You didn't whore yourself out for it. You didn't politic. You didn't shuck and jive and dance for it. The Lord sent the resources to you just based on your authenticity. And I think that's a lesson for all of us. You know, what is for you is for you. What God has for you, it's going to come to you. And you don't have to be anybody but yourself. And the best version of yourself, obviously, that God would have you to be. And I think that's an amazing testimony.
Bro, I'm talking about, man, I just mean, I tell people like, and this is not self-deprecating. We have like Tolan Marty, like Tolan brains. Like, everybody Tolan. I'm just me. I'm just going to revelate for my 30, 40 minutes. I'm just going to sit down. You know what I'm saying? but I'm going to do what God has told me to do and be authentic in that.
Absolutely.
I think that's why we click, right?
Yeah, it's real.
It's like, man, just a regular dude. Like, if we never even preach at each other's church, it's a friend for life. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I think that's what it is. Like you said, we don't want to spill out the beans on preachers. But, some of these dudes don't even really have true friends. You know what I'm saying? They don't have true relationship. Right?
You're right.
Noel Jones and Bishop J talked about that one time. They were like, man, we just were friends. Like, they challenged each other.
Yeah.
They would leave little notes like Bishop Noel Jones, he tells this story where, most times, I guess, pastors would share the same room when Bishop leave, Bishop Jake's coming and have the same room. Mm-hmm. So he said he left a note for Bishop. "You might want to kill it because I don't leave him nothing." So you do little stuff like that.
Yeah. Helping to sharpen each other. Yeah.
Yeah, but for the most part, man, that's what it is. So if anybody listening to Mancave, man, just be authentically you. And I like what you added, which I need to start adding to people. Be authentically the best version of you.
That's correct. Yeah, because at the end of the day, we are all becoming. None of us have arrived. Paul said, "I count not myself to have apprehended." But this one thing I do, though, I forget those things which are behind. And I'm stretching, I'm reaching for whatever it is that God has for me. And I think every day you're pressing towards that mark and that prize. And I think that's why this space that we're in together is so important. Our journey at VUU, to be honest with you, I was done with school. It took me forever to go back to get a master's because I just didn't think I needed it. I was pushing back on that narrative that you need a degree to get a church. Well, obviously I, was called to a church and grew a church without a master's degree. But it was my journey in life that led me to pursue the master's, at the time that I did. What I was going through at the time, my crisis that I was dealing with, that's what pushed me to go back to school because I needed something productive to do with my time. And so then the doctorate, I was like, I really ain't trying to go do that. I don't need it. But, and I tell my wife this all the time, I found myself lacking intellectual stimulation. Like you talked about for your members. Nothing was challenging me intellectually. Not that I'm smarter than everybody else in the world, but in my context, I was not being pushed or challenged intellectually. So I had to go and get that challenge. And that's why I'm in this space with y'all now, because I needed that, for my own growth and my own development, because I didn't want to get stale. I didn't want to feel like I had already arrived. So this is a self-challenge. Nobody told me to go do it. It's just something that God put in me, and now I'm hooked on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, that's good. I think for me, it's definitely the calling and the grace that I'm called. So I think I'm called to be in two spheres: academia, ministry, and these in the hood, right? So I even after this, which I'm glad, like God, I got this one thing, like one thing at a time. Even after this, man, I may do a PhD so I can get in those academic spaces, right?
Man, don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. So you gonna make me go come behind you and get one? I ain't doing it. No.
I got you. Because as we talk about it, our degree is a practical, it's still a doctorate. But some schools be like, yeah, you need a PhD. But for me, I tell people, I think I'm like Benjamin Mays in reverse. Whereas he spent more time in academia, he was still a Baptist preacher. I think I would spend more time in the church and in the community, but have streams of income or influence in academia.
Yeah.
So that's why.
That's Howard Thurman too. Spent more time, in missions and in academia, and didn't really lock down with the church thing. He was a floater for most of his ministry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's good. I mean, so I tell people, man, the people like, you getting all that? I said, nah, I'm comfortable. I said, I think it's trajectory God has me. I tell people, I was a reader before getting. I was a reader, researcher anyway.
Yeah.
But like you say, it's something about being still pushed and structured in a way where you got to pull it out.
That's it. That's it. And I think that's what's so valuable about these kind of relationships, because all of the authors and all of the scholars that we're reading right now, well, there's got to be another generation of scholars that come behind them. James Cone can't be the last one that writes on liberation theology. Kata Geneva Cannon, God rest her soul, can't be the only one that writes from a womanist perspective. Just in the last year, I've learned that, like, I got my butt kicked for saying feminist in a paper. Oh my God, why did I put that word in a paper? And Doc let me know, and shouts out to Dr. Flowers, our advisor. He let me know real quick, you might want to edit that part of your paper talking about feminism, because Dr. Cannon and them were not feminists. They were womanists, and there's a difference. And so I learned the hard way about that. He took all points for that. Yeah. But they can't be the only scholars. You see what I'm saying? We have to come and continue that.
Yeah, it's good you said that, because sometimes, I do leadership development and all as well, right? And so you kind of be like, oh man, that field is crowded. You got the Sam Chan, the John Matt. It's like, well, you think they're gonna be here 1,000 years? Like somebody must pick up the word. That's leadership development. But like you said, that was so good, bro. Like you said, like we are the next people to talk about it. And particularly for me, I want to talk about it from a pneumatological standpoint. For those of y'all not trying to be super deep, that's Holy Spirit.
No, you just dropped one. You dropped that word. Go ahead, tell us what that is again.
Yeah, that's the Holy Spirit. Because I think a lot of times when we talk about liberation, we do talk about the word and that. And I think the only time you give emphasis, or we give emphasis to it, is when we say the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. But we don't go deeper into what is the Spirit role in the liberation and restoration of people and places. Yeah. So that's probably how I'm going to focus on it, right? Yeah. Particularly from an urban context.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah.
What does the Holy Spirit look like? What is his role outside of the emotionalism that we see in the Black church? The Holy Spirit's function doesn't just make me jump and cry and shout and dance. That he has to have a presence, in my Monday through Saturday experience.
I'm talking about Monday through Saturday. I tell him, look at him. if you said like dry, you married, you can call the Holy Ghost. You know, he. Hey, somebody right now thinking, whoa,
Reverend,
like whoa, he is
Reverend.
the anointing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. In every aspect of our
Yeah, and I
lives.
said that for shock value for some people because sometimes we would literally like, man, he talking about the Holy Spirit and says him a married. Yeah, you better need him. You gonna need him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that.
If marriage is a covenant that God honors, then His Spirit has got to be present, even in that process. God ain't got no problem with sex.
Not at all.
Yeah, in the name
They
of
don't know
Jesus.
that now.
So moving on.
Yes.
Talk about your family a little bit. You are a dad, and you talk about your relationship, with your father. Even how is it on this side, being a father and raising kids? Our son is 16 years old, so we have our own testimony. But talk about being a dad.
Bro, mine is 15. So let me say this. I meant to say this earlier, man. I thank God that my wife allowed for people to come into her house every Sunday. Because remember I said I started church in my living room. And making sure that we all make sure everything was clean, this and that. So I want to thank God for my wife, Chandra. Now, being a farmer, man, you see you just kind of like see yourself, and you don't realize how much of your parents, particularly for me, my dad is in me. You start doing stuff,
Yep.
and they be like, you acting like Papa. You acting like, I'm not
Yep.
acting. I'm like,
Yep.
that is something he would have said. But man, it's challenging and rewarding to know, number one, that my son does look, and my daughter, let me say that as well, and my daughter. So I'm up for that challenge. I think I'm up for the challenge with my daughter, knowing that I got to put her up on game because she gonna run into a dude out there who like me, right? And so I gotta have her first grounded in the word, and then this is in her self-esteem, knowing who she is, knowing that but this Applebee's is nothing. My daddy took me to such and such. I'm not blown away by Applebee's. For my son, it's like I told you, they got a little better than I had, right? But for him, it's, man, make sure you're a man. I'm not going to be here always. You know what? Let your yes be, let your word be. I tell him, all you got is your word.
Yeah.
Right? And so you see a little different stuff. You see a little defiance to that. But what I try to do, instead of just getting ready to knock his head out all the time, I try to say, okay, when you look at that word discipline in the Bible, it's just not always beat. It's, hey, man, come here. Let me teach you. Now let me let you see what you should have done.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's it.
Because you want a man and a young woman for that matter. You want your kids to think. You don't, it's just not do what I say. I want you to know the logic behind what I'm saying. Case in point. We were riding home from church yesterday, and we were getting ready to stop by Publix because our son he's applied to work there, right? So he got the online application already done. And so we said we probably need to go by Publix just to see the status of your application. He was like, I already put it in. They're gonna call me if something happened or if they want me. I said, no, you need to go in there again and just show your face. I need you to understand the logic of what I'm telling you right now. As a young black man, just go in there and show yourself. Even if they already got your application, there's a stack of papers on somebody's desk, and right now you don't stand out. I said, this ain't church. These folk don't know you. You ain't the pastor's son at Publix. You get no privilege at Publix. So you need to stand out. I wanted him to understand the logic, behind what we were telling him. We could have just made him go in there and talk to the folk, but I want you to understand the thought process. From what I'm hearing you say, you want your son and your daughter to be thinkers, not just do what I say or follow my example, but I want you to know there's a logic behind what we're telling you to do.
I mean, that's so good because, as we progress, we probably had parents who would definitely do what I say, My dad was a little bit of both. I mean, I wasn't going to do what I say, but hey, why you do that? And what made me think about it, as soon as you started talking, my son, I tell him, point guard, think. So guess what? Now he'll do me like that. Think, point guard. But then I tell him, I said, you got to see it. I teach it, I said, strategy. critical thinking. You got to see it before it happens.
Yeah.
Wow. But I use basketball and that's what I played, right? But at the end of the day, I said, okay, something is this simple. If we come this way, it's a yield sign here. The cars on this side is coming. That automatically tell you the light red.
Mm-hmm.
So you really ain't got the yield.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because the light, they coming across the traffic. That was just something that simple. They come across the traffic that you would have to yield for. So if you see them coming, you ain't got to necessarily even slow down. You
Right.
do a little check.
Right.
But if one of them cars come, they're going to hit them cars first.
Think ahead.
So think ahead. If you see them cars come, that means they're like red, they green. I got a little leeway right here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just stuff like that. That's good, man. I think we do need to do that as far as it's really just because we're gonna be gone. And you don't want them, lift down. Right? Yeah. Here's something I thought about too, man. Tell me what you think about this. I know we probably nearing our time.
Yeah, you good.
Okay, we're good. So, we usually tell kids, hey, which I agree with this now, get out of grown folk mind, it's grown folk business, I agree. I think maybe sometime when we're probably talking to some people about business or insurance, they need to be right there. I think they need to be right there so they can at least, even if they don't get the concept, they really at least can see how mom and dad is sitting down and dealt with business. I see how my dad do it, talking to this dude in his face and making this dude honor his word or this and that.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes we shoosh them out the room at the wrong time. Now, if you talking about grown folks stuff, of course, don't let them be in your mouth. But stuff like that, I think they need to be around the catch.
I agree, and I'll go scriptural and then make it practical. Back in Deuteronomy, when Moses first gave the law, God told him to tell Israel, put that law up on the doorposts so that your children and your children's children can see it. Put it make sure it's in front of their face each and every day. And so generationally, the Jews got that thing on lock, even to this day, in terms of finance, in terms of certain expectations. If you are practicing Orthodox Judaism, the way that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob did, they have a principle in place that our children's children, generational wealth, generational success, the family business, whatever it is, on principle. Well, we who are people of color, we have to set that standard within our own families, which means our children need to know about savings and investments. They need to know about life insurance policy. They need to know about retirements. They need to know if we have a family business. They need to know how that business runs. They need to know how they are expected to carry this thing on. I totally agree. Like, we wait until our kids are 18 and we want to put them out the house talking about be responsible. We haven't taught them anything, to be responsible. I don't know if my son ready to leave his house or not. I might need to keep him repeating a grade, right? Like, you might need to stay back a few years because they got to know, the importance of credit, the importance of, you may have to stay back in the 13th grade or something, man, just to make sure that he's ready. But that's a principle that we have to pick up as parents, that we can't just do everything for them and not let them see the how, when it comes to finance, business, ministry, their relationship with the Lord. I think they need to know the how and why so that they can carry, that on. It ain't enough to say my daddy got money, so I'm gonna be all right. That's privilege. That's that, that's that, I can't think of the term right now, but that's them kids, that just don't have any appreciation for anything. Trust fund babies, but we're talking about generational responsibility. I think you own to something with that.
That's good. You might, I don't know where you got that word from. It's from the Holy Ghost. So we're not even going to just talk about generational wealth. We're talking about generational responsibility.
Absolutely. I mean, we can't minimize Joseph and Jesus' relationship, bro. You go ahead and write that down, copyright it, and we'll go half on the idea.
Okay.
We cannot dismiss Joseph and Jesus' relationship. Joseph was a small business owner, black man, carpenter, and he taught his son. We don't hear nothing about Jesus from the age of 12 to 30. So we assume that he's learning carpentry. He's in the family business. You know, we don't know exactly when Joseph died, but I take that principle of him passing on that knowledge to his son that he was assigned to. Jesus was in the family business.
Man, let me tell you something. I was pumping. Same thing you saying. I'm telling my son, I left my dad at house at 18. I ain't never back. I said, I came back for the summers, and that's about it. And then the Holy Spirit arrested me. Because it was last year. And I was like, yeah. I was like, getting going by all that. You know, I ain't getting too hard with it.
Yeah.
Then the Holy Spirit arrested me and said, you only got 2 years with him too. And I was like,
yeah.
Oh, it turned it around.
Yeah.
Which means you need to continue to pour.
Yeah.
Like you ain't just gonna throw them out, and then it's gonna be lifelong. You know, my dad said, Jermaine, what we got to look forward to. They get out your house, they don't get out your pocket.
Bro, I said that yesterday to my son because he talking about, I ain't got long. I'm like, bro, as long as because he got a job already. He works at Moe's. And so he trying to get on at Publix, but he works at Moe's. So he get him a little direct deposit every 2 weeks. And so he wanted to buy something out of Walmart. And I said, no, you ain't getting that. He's like, no, but I'm using my money. I said, bro, as long as you in my pocket, your money is still my money. Bro, and I've calculated it. Your 16 years, you owe me about $300,286.14. So until you get out of my pocket, you still owe me. But I like what you said with that.
Well, I think the thing is, man, of course, we always can look hindsight and kind of say what we should have been. So if any fathers out there, inspiring father, about to be father, just be intentional. I think, and I'm being transparent, there's anything I wish I would have probably been a little bit more intentional earlier on. Because I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know what I thought it was going to be osmosis. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if he just thought, well, we set this in the house, but I would have been intentional. Not so, probably would have had like a little curriculum, not so strict. Well, he got a whatever. I still want him to be a kid and grow for both of them, but I would have been definitely more intentional. Hey, read this. I got him going through like a little rites of passage thing now. My goal is, he had to learn the scriptures. He learned how to tie the tie. He about to start driving. So that means, guess what? If you're going to drive, you need to learn how to check the oil and change the tire. Right? There's going to be stuff you can do. And what I plan on doing, Jermaine, is by the time you turn 18 or get ready to go to college or something, I have a dinner. I don't know if it's going to be just all men, spiritual men or men, or just the family. We have a dinner.
The village.
And it's like a rites of passage. You growing up, we lay hands on you, we speak over you, and we see you into the world now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Think about it, we've done that because some of us as men, we think the first time I got me a little piece. First time I got in a fight. First time I knocked the joker out. First time I got my job and got my own paycheck. And man, you know what? Let's not forget the tribe in Africa. Like you can't even marry nobody till you kill your life and not with a gun. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. If you can kill the enlightened here, though, we know you ain't gonna run with Georgia power seat. If you can think about that. And I talked to a brother from Nigeria. He said basically, what it's saying when a male over there don't complete their rites of passage to see they're a man, they say you want to get married. How do you wish to get married? You're not even proving you're a man.
Yeah.
How you gonna take care of family? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
We need to have something to say, hey, this is what we got you. We ain't gonna leave you now.
I agree.
We got to boom. You know what I'm saying?
I think the village, the men in our community as well as the women in our community could really create, an atmosphere of expectation and accountability to the point where you've been sent out by the community and you're accountable to the community for what you do and for what you bring back. Because again, like I said, the Jews got that master, as a cultural group. They got that thing mastered.
One more story.
Yeah.
Look, the same guy from Nigeria, he said now he's Yoruba. He said their tribe, when they born, every child has a song about them. The mother sings a song and teaches it to everybody. Teaches that. So that song, so my name is Dominique. So my mother would have said, Dominique, you a little sung a song. So man, he says whenever the person wrongs somebody in the community, they're not doing that, that person will sing that song to them. Saying this is who you brought. The first time he told that story, I cried. Hey, why did he said, now that's individual. He said, if you did something against the community and you know whatever, the whole community, a whole tribe will circle your house and sing that song of your identity for you to come back. He said it's been known that people have stayed around the house for 4 days to sing that, bro.
I'm finna preach that somewhere. That's gonna preach real good. Remember who you are.
That.
Wow.
I heard it last year, but I had to tell my early leadership class this year. The first time he said it, bro, and it almost caught me this time. Bro, I'm not trying to keep my eye on. But bro, think about that.
Yeah.
We're reminding you who you are. Now we're in different countries. Think about the young brothers who are committing crime. Bro, I'm gonna call you to who you really are. You did an injustice against the community. You're gonna have to probably pay something, but I'm gonna still speak into you.
Talk, man. Talk.
Mama had
Talk, man.
And daddy.
Talk, man. God, dog. That's the kind of, brothers and sisters, that is the kind of stimulation that I'm talking about. You know, just one conversation with a brother just ignites something in me. So if you can imagine, our whole doctoral journey is going to be full of these kinds of conversations. And I'm so grateful to you for taking the time to share with us in the Man Cave. And, you know, this will not be your last time, certainly, but for you to impart what you've imparted to us. And it's been so helpful to me. And I hope that you guys have been blessed by this as well. Make sure you share this page. Make sure that you connect with the YouTube as we continue to drop content. Dominique, I got like 20 followers on YouTube. I'm blowing up, bro. I got 20 whole followers on YouTube. Hey. I'm doing it. I'm doing it big, bro. I got a mega church on YouTube.
Hey, get it real, bro. Hey, man, I want to tell you, I thank you, man. And man, I'm looking forward to our journey. Hopefully, when this whole, as they say, outside open back up, our families can meet each other in person.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But you know, one man I always say, man, it's an honor and a privilege to be accepted amongst your peers, man. So I appreciate it. I don't take it lightly.
This is an honor.
I value our time together already, man.
This is an honor. I appreciate it. And you will be in Tallahassee at some point. You're going to have to come and talk to our men, pour into them as well. Hey, it's got to happen. That's it. That leadership has got to happen. Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. Y'all, this has been another edition of Man Cave Monday. This has been my host, my guest. I'm the host, right? This has been my guest, Pastor Dominique Johnson, who has just blessed the space tonight. Y'all make sure y'all connect with him as well on the Facebook and all these other platforms. He's got good stuff going on. But thank you, bro, for doing this.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. We'll see you guys on next week for another great interview. And I'm looking forward to what God has in store for all of us. Y'all take care. We'll see you soon.